The morning sun rose over the Nile like molten gold, spreading warmth across the fertile banks where farmers had already begun their work. Palm trees swayed gently as boats glided across the river, their sails catching the soft desert breeze. Nearly 1,900 years ago, life in Egypt followed the rhythm of water and sand, of rising floods and falling stars. Though Cleopatra's reign had already passed into memory, her influence still lived on in the walls of grand temples, in whispered stories, and in the dreams of young girls who grew up beneath the same eternal sky. In a small village near Alexandria lived a teenage girl named Nephrina. Her family were simple bead makers, using colored stones and glass imported from distant lands. Every morning, she helped her mother string jewelry that would later be sold in the bustling markets of the city. Although her life was ordinary, her heart was not. She was fascinated by tales of Queen Cleopatra, stories told by old travelers who claimed to have seen her golden palace and heard her powerful voice in the royal court. Nephrina imagined what it must have been like to walk where Cleopatra once walked, to see the Pharos lighthouse glowing at night like a star fallen to earth. Life in her world was hard, ruled now by Roman governors. Taxes were heavy, soldiers walked the streets with cold eyes, and freedom for Egyptians had become a fading memory. Yet, in small ways, the people kept their ancient traditions alive. After finishing her morning work, Nephrina often went to the temple of Isis with her grandmother. The air smelled of incense and burning oils. Priests sang hymns in deep voices, their echo mixing with the sounds of busy markets outside. Her grandmother spoke about when Cleopatra ruled, how Egypt stood tall and proud, feared and respected by powerful empires. She was not just a queen, her grandmother would whisper. She was Egypt's soul. Life 1,900 years ago was simple yet filled with meaning. People woke up with the sun. The men went to farms, sculpting stone or constructing buildings that would last centuries. Women carried water from the river, baked bread from barley and wheat, and wove linen from flax plants. Children played near the riverbanks, shaping small boats from reeds and racing them in the current. But while life seemed calm on the surface, Alexandria remained a city of tension. Roman influence had changed everything. Greek, Roman, and Egyptian cultures collided in its streets. Some welcomed the change, benefiting from trade. Others, like Nephrina's father, felt that Egypt was losing its true identity. One afternoon, while delivering jewelry to the market, Nephrina overheard a heated conversation between two traveling scholars conversing in Greek. They spoke of Cleopatra not only as a ruler, but as a woman of deep intelligence, fluent in multiple languages, skilled in medicine, astronomy, and political strategy. She ruled a world of men and bent it to her will, one man said. Nephrina's heart pounded. She had always thought of Cleopatra as beautiful and powerful, but hearing of her wisdom made her more than a legend. That night, under flickering oil lamps, she told her family everything. Even her father, who rarely showed emotion, listened carefully. In the quiet of the desert nights, Egypt was illuminated by the stars. The same stars that Cleopatra had once studied still watched over the land. Astronomy was not just science to them, it was divine language. Priests studied the skies to predict the flooding of the Nile, which meant life or death for crops. Without the river's yearly flood, the land would dry and hunger would follow. Food was simple but sacred. Bread, onions, dates, and fish from the Nile filled their meals. Honey was a luxury, used in religious ceremonies and medicines. Physicians used herbs and oils passed down through generations. Even 1,900 years ago, Egyptian medicine was more advanced than many parts of the world, though it mixed spiritual beliefs with practical treatment. One day, a Roman officer arrived in their village. He demanded crafts as gifts for a governor visiting from distant lands. Nephrina's father offered their finest beads. The officer noticed the unique craftsmanship and demanded more. "We represent Rome now," he said. "Your queen is history." But Nephrina dared to speak. "Cleopatra lives in us," she whispered, not loudly enough for him to hear, but loud enough for her soul. The officer took the jewelry and left coins behind. Though the payment meant better food for weeks, there was no joy in it. Egypt had lost its voice, but its heart still beat beneath layers of foreign rule. That evening, an old storyteller came to the village. People gathered around a fire as he spoke of the final days of Cleopatra. He spoke of her golden robes, her sharp mind, how she refused to live as a trophy of Rome. She chose death over humiliation, he said. Not because she was weak, but because she refused to be owned. The crowd sat in silence. To them, Cleopatra wasn't just history, she was resistance. As Nefrina grew older, she began helping a local scribe who recorded temple stories and ancient texts. He taught her how to read hieroglyphs and Greek letters. Few girls had this chance, but he saw something rare in her eyes. "What you seek is not the queen," he told her once. "You seek the courage she carried." Life in that time wasn't just about surviving, it was about holding on to identity while empires tried to erase it. The people of Egypt kept their gods, their customs, their art. Wall paintings still told stories of afterlife journeys, where hearts were weighed against feathers of truth. Nefrina's world was shaped by rituals. Funerals were sacred, with mummification still practiced though less grand than in Pharaoh's time. People believed that the soul never truly died, only traveled to another realm. Even Cleopatra's spirit, they believed, would walk among the gods. Years passed, and Nefrina traveled to Alexandria to deliver a special order to a wealthy household. For the first time, she saw the ruined palace where Cleopatra once lived. The walls were cracked, and parts had been claimed by the sea, but the air still felt heavy with history. She stood there, imagining footsteps echoing in grand halls, laughter from royal banquets, political whispers that once shaped the world. At that moment, she realized something. Cleopatra did not live only in golden statues or ruined palaces. She lived in the strength of Egyptian women, in the resilience of farmers who still honored the Nile, in the hands of artisans who kept ancient designs alive. Life 1,900 years ago was not just about hardship. It was about continuity. It was about carrying legacy through silent defiance and everyday survival. When Nefrina returned home, she continued her work, but now with purpose. Each bead she strung carried history. Each story she told children carried memory. She taught young girls the names of Egyptian goddesses, the wisdom of past queens, and the power of their own voices. Cleopatra's empire may have fallen, but her spirit shaped generations beyond her time. And even after 1,900 years, along the Nile where water kissed soil, Egypt still breathed, still remembered, still stood.